Today we are going to talk about the future of blockchain and like how blockchain will actually change our future. And before we start the interview or the talk today, let me introduce Mr. Harpreet. But give me a sec. Give me a sec. There is a little bit of technical problem.
No
But okay,
problem.
so Mr. Harper right here, everyone, is the CEO and founder of Blockline, and he will be telling us about blockchain and also the future of our society with blockchain. So we are very excited today. And how are you, sir? How are you, Mr. Harper?
Yeah, I'm in great spirits. Like it's been the busiest time in the blockchain space, and everything in the crypto area is actually booming. So like everybody is very happy, right? I mean, like on the other side, we are stuck with the pandemic, and like it's miserable in the case of that. That is taking lives. But on the other,
Yeah.
but we also have to see on the positive side where the technology has also picked up, right? The whole it is became a force to country, like the countries, for governments, to companies to actually go up and look into innovation. And this time around, blockchain actually got a front seat into innovation and into the innovation discussion. So I'm very happy about that.
That is true. Everything is just going digitalized, like everything since COVID-19. So yeah. And so sir, would you please introduce yourself a little, just in case if I am not giving like enough perspective about you and how you are your experience in the field.
Okay, sure. I think I'll start with, of course, like as you introduced me earlier. So I'm the CEO of Blockline Technology Sdn Berhad, but we usually just go by the brand name Blockline. And I'm also a CTO of a company called Verifizer, which is a supply chain management systems. Like we're currently still developing it. It's in based out of China. So I have a team in China for Verifizer. I have a team in Malaysia, India, and like kind of distributed across the world for Blockline. And other than that, I'm also doing a lot of other kind of roles, especially in association. I'm the president of Access Blockchain Association Malaysia, and I represent many other like kind of spaces in the Malaysian government, like our government agencies, to basically kind of consult them on how to like use blockchain for education, how to actually use blockchain, how do we get in talent in blockchain, and at the same time how can we adopt this technology here in Malaysia. And at the current moment, we are also working on a national blockchain roadmap on how can the country go up and embrace the technology and many other things. Actually, if you looked on my LinkedIn, I have so many active roles. But to be honest, there are like only like two roles that I really make money out of. Everything else is national service. So that
National service.
so that's how I put it. Yeah, right. So in this case, talk a little bit about how I got into this space, just to give a bit of perspective. So I used to be a blockchain developer, and before that, I used to be building conveyor systems and doing a bit of hardware. Like hardware programmings and hardware systems. So I touched a bit over there, and then later when I got into blockchain, I got really excited, really interested into the space, and I felt that maybe this has a huge potential. Back then, Ethereum was still new. A lot of this crypto and blockchain projects were still new. So I got in early. I was among the earliest Malaysian smart contract developers and among the earliest blockchain developers in this region as well. So that's the reason I got a lot of traction. I got a lot of people actually got interested to talk to me, and that's how I kind of grew into the space. But I actually had passion for programming and coding quite early on. I was programming since 14 years old. I used to
Yeah.
build, yeah.
Wow.
So I used to build websites. I used to build some, like basic, like codes and basic programs daily. Then I started to do some programming for visual effects. I used to also do a bit of visual effects. I used to love the idea of taking a camera and going around and making some visual effect movies. I used to, like, I'm kind of been a full-on nerd, to be honest, since young,
Wow.
and that kind of lead me to the way into blockchain and crypto, which was a very nerdy space in the beginning. These days is cool, but back when it
Yeah.
started, it was super nerdy.
Wow, that's a lot of experience that you have right there. So I hope everyone can really take your note tonight, because we are absolutely going to learn a lot and get inspired a lot from him. So, can we start from our first and fundamental question?
Sure.
So, what is blockchain, sir? Would you please explain to us briefly about it?
Okay, so usually I have few perspectives, right? So I come from software engineering. I have a way of explaining it to the developers. But before that, I would like to ask these questions. Who are the mass of the audience? Will it be techies or will it be non-tech today?
I think it's going to be both because it's open for public. But mostly people who know tech for ID are people who knows about technology. But it's also open for public, so people can come here from literally like anywhere.
Okay, sure. So I'll give two way of explanation of what is blockchain then. So first one is the generally the more technical one. So those software engineer out there would be familiar with this concept called data structures. So basically, blockchain is a new form of data structure where you actually can detect temperament in the space. So it's too technical for non-tech guys. So I'm just gonna go up and say for the non-technical guys. So for like many years of IT and computers, we had one problem: we couldn't detect anybody changing information. It was very difficult to do that. It was very difficult to have some sort of temper-resistant database that we can trust, because the only way we actually a lot of if you notice like few years back before cloud came in and YouTube and Facebook became really famous, the only way a lot of services worked, even a lot of banking services work today in the similar fashion, is centralized computing. Everybody had one server in the university, one server in the bank, one server like for different government agencies, and they were always error 404. You can't actually use them. And a lot of times the websites will be down. Even until today, a lot of government offices actually still host this service to running the services. But there's one issue over there. These kind of services can't scale, right? They can't actually grow.
Yeah.
So you needed a way to actually detect temperament in database. You needed a way to have a database that you can trust on. So if you're coming back to the idea, to understand a bit of the blockchain story, you actually have to understand how it originated from Bitcoin. So back in the day when Satoshi Nakamoto, a guy or a girl or a team of people or an alien, we have no clue of who really was that guy, or maybe somebody from the future. We have a lot of speculation in the space of who is Satoshi Nakamoto, but the real answer is we do not know. So when he was actually might be thinking, so he might have some things in mind. So one of the problems that he incurred, that how can you actually make a digital currency trustable, right? How can you make sure? So in that case, you need a database that do not change. And if anybody changes it, you can actually record it. Because if anything in computer bits, anything stored in your hardware, you can just shut it down, or you can just go up and change it, because they're all just electrical bits, can be changed. Only way you stop it from changing is either you print it on crystals or something like that. Then maybe they don't change. But in the case of digital bits, they always will actually will be up to temperament. So he decided to actually build a data structure, a way of storing information where you can detect that the database is being tempered. Then he decided to put it up on a distributed system, which we call that's why I wanted to run the slides. So it was a bit more easier. Can I run the slides now?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think it'll be much easier to actually visualize it. For information. So for an example, whenever you open up your banking app, for example, you will be requesting for your balance. What is your balance, how much of balance you're storing over there, and then you will be requesting to transfer the money, where you want to change the balance of your account. Maybe you want to send $200 to your friend, so you will have to minus off the $200 from your account and add $200 into the your friend's account. So that's a general use case that you do. But every time you do that, you'll be calling a server, and the server will be actually doing the transactions for you, and everybody else will be just connected to it. I usually like to use the analogy from a university student perspective, because I do a lot of university classes. I teach a lot of students. So this is more like a teamwork and a leader, right? You have like a lot of people, and there is one guy. Like in my days of university, there was a culture, not a culture. I mean, we were the wrong ones. We used to not attend classes, and we always have this one guy who used to be like the guy who used to attend all classes, and we're like, you are the leader, man. You're the guy who's going to be the boss of the team,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because he attends everything, he knows everything. We just have to go up and leech all the information from him. So similar case over here, the bank server knows everything. He knows your database, he knows your account, he knows when you're transferred, and he's the master here, and he's the leader, and he tells you, the updated information, and also how to, also to carry out transactions. He make those decisions. So this is more like that kind of a group. When you go to decentralized, everybody is kind of like having a different sort of databases. This is more like a study group where you decentralize it. There's no like one leader. Different leaders can take different, decisions, and they can have different database. So this is how like our Facebook and like Netflix and everything works. If you notice, Netflix is really fast compared to our banking services. Or you open up Facebook, it loads up really fast, but your bank takes so much of time to do transaction, right? I do not know if it's the same case in Indonesia, but a few years back when I was there, my friends were complaining, right? So in this case,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, so if you notice that actually what happens here, they took a more decentralized approach. So in every country, they actually have a server. So let's say if they are hosting in Malaysia, they're going to go up and host a server in Malaysia. Like right now, Disney Plus is about to come into Southeast Asia. So what they have to do is they have to come in and host their servers in Malaysia, Indonesia, say Singapore. And once they host that with all their data, then we'll be able to connect to it and watch some movies. And it will be a fast service. If you had to connect all the way to a central server in US, it will take a long time. It will be the experience won't be good. So that system has its advantages and disadvantages as well, because both of the systems are still kind of leader based. Even in a decentralized system, you need to have a master server. So in this case, the US will be a master server who decides how to distribute the content, who has what role, and things like that. So both of the systems get shut down. Like in this case, like the team, the group case, right? So if the main person, just stop responding your message, he's overloaded with a lot of questions. Let's say that one student just decided not to show up for the teamwork or the day of submission, you're kind of like screwed over, right? So in this case, same case over here. Whenever they in my case, whenever we started to ask a lot of questions to this main team leader, he'll just mute his WhatsApp and don't answer us for that day or something, and we will be left in a limbo, right? Same case over here, your server will have the same issue. When it gets overloaded, he will just stop responding, error 404, server not found, and you can't access that service. But this centralized system has advantages as well. You can control this. You can control the database. So the reason why a lot of banks are still using it, a lot of universities are still using it, because it's easy to predict and protect the data. So they know that the server is there. Anything goes wrong, I can just go to it, plug to it, and manage the data. And at the same time, actually, there's no a lot of data flowing out. There's only like some decision making going out, and all that all the transaction is just carrying out on my server. So I can just put that in my in my bank, and throw firewalls behind it and kind of secure it, and at the same time protect the data from being leaked or whatsoever. So in a decentralized system, it's a bit more flexible. Usually you'll notice a lot of these decentralized systems like Netflix, Facebook, they're not very important systems. They tend to, you can just go up and watch movies. If anybody hack your movie system, never mind, you just watch it, right? You can always, you have no problem. You can recover the account and no big deal. But anybody hacks your bank account and takes away your money, it's a problem, right? It's a big issue. And during the early days of Bitcoin, these two systems were the one famous. Distributed systems was not really famous. But before that, are you guys aware with torrenting? Torrent networks.
No,
Okay, so back in the day, torrent, LimeWire, and something that was really famous in Malaysia. So LimeWire was one of the early pioneers. They decided to do P2P file sharings, where you can share file between computers to computers. You don't really have to, host a server or computers like this. So all the computers can talk to each other in a distributed network. Okay, so one of the famous use cases before blockchain used to be file sharing and torrent networks. at the moment, it's also there's a lot of file sharing and torrent networks that started here. So there was a lot of stuff that was happening in distributed systems before like a blockchain. I might be wrong there, because a lot of scientists will argue that no, we were used to do a lot of research, but not a lot of use cases were there. But but this distributed system has an advantage, right? This is like a group that keeps account of everything. So imagine like a university club, right? Or like a club where everybody has the club accounts. Everybody keeps the accounts of of who comes in and who left. Everybody is like maybe in this one WhatsApp group, and and everybody has this database. So every time when anybody comes in, they pays money. Everybody monitors it. Everybody acknowledges it. Yes, a member number 100 joined in and he paid this much. So total balance is 1,000, for example, right? So everybody monitors it and everybody view it, right? Or maybe this is something like how I usually use a simple analogy is like playing football, right? Like whenever you play football or futsal in a small group, everybody keeps account on how many goals were there, right? So let's say in this case, everybody monitors it. We have no referee. We have no budget for it. You're playing a normal day futsal to get a referee. You have that is too much for a normal day futsal, right? So usually what we do is if you're playing between friends, everybody keep a track that who scored the goal and how many goals were there. And in that case, in the end of the day, you know who won. And so this doesn't give your friends bragging right. Like a lot of cases you will have a guy who will come out and say, hey, I was a hat trick today, but actually there was only 2 goals scored, right? Yeah, so in that case everybody will be like, no, you didn't score. Everybody saw, everybody were experiencing it, and everybody has that information. Same case that we turn the same concept into computers, where computers monitors that database. Everybody has a copy of the database and everybody verifies that did you do the transaction or you didn't do the transaction, right? So this is distributed systems. Sorry. Yeah. To go towards ledger, you have to understand distributed systems can use in many different ways. You can be a cloud, you can be a file system, and you can be a ledger. Ledger means account, right? How much money came in, how much money go out, that's all. So when you say distributed ledger technology, means you're just taking the ledger and putting in like a distributed system computers. Everybody keeps a copy. In simple terms, that's all a distributed ledger. But there are different ways to implement a distributed ledger technology. And one of them is blockchain technology.
So blockchain is
one of the LTs. So there are many different. I only mentioned like 5 here, but there are actually many more different ways that emerge. Every cryptocurrency, you will see like over like thousands and thousands plus cryptocurrencies out there, I think 2,000 plus now. And all that cryptocurrencies have different sort of technology. Some are DEX, some are hashgraph, some are Tangle, some are block lattice, some are blockchain, some are blockchain version A, version B, version C. So when people come to me, what's blockchain technology? Like, this is how I usually put it. And they say it is not the same technology on every crypto. Every crypto has a different way of doing it, different way of doing things. So once you get to that level of understanding that what is DLT, what are ledgers, and what are blockchain, then you will be able to differentiate when they come, like a project comes to you and said, hey, we are using hashgraph. So like, oh, that's hashgraph. It's a different form of DLT. Okay. So a blockchain is just a data structure. It's just a list of like growing blocks. So instead of storing the information like in a database, if you have to be a bit technical to actually know this, but generally how in a more human way of putting it, how blockchain stores that information is where it made it unique. It wasn't there earlier. So blockchain, it kind of make it like a amazing race kind of a game, where you every time you come in, to know the previous guy, you need to have a clue, right? In this case, you need to have the cryptographic hash of the previous block. So imagine you're going into an amazing race, let's say you're moving backwards of the blockchain, or you're moving backwards of the you're going forward in the amazing race, for example. So you want to go to the next place, you need to know the clue for the next place, right? So in this case, let's say the final place is you have to reach to a town in Jakarta, or maybe let's say the final place is KL. Okay, you have to actually reach Kuala Lumpur at last, and you started from Jakarta, and maybe you have to go to Singapore, you have to go to Johor Bahru, and like few other places, and finally you have to reach in KL. So that is the end goal. So everybody who got right will actually reach in Kuala Lumpur. But the guys who actually had temperament, they will never reach Kuala Lumpur. they will go somewhere else.
Okay.
So it kind of made it like a puzzle, like kind of a puzzle that you have to solve every time like that kind of the hash. If the hash is different, the database will not be a sync. You will have, like, let's say there's 1,000 people who partake in this amazing race, and maybe like 800 plus people joined in and reached Kuala Lumpur, but 200 plus went missing, 200 people missing. Okay, so the 200 plus people has been corrupted, or the database is not correct or not a sync. In this case, we can decide that, hey, their database is not accurate. We're going to take the majority of 800 to be the accurate, and we move on to the next game, right? Same case like that, it kind of detects who is the correct one. And in this case, they use this concept called cryptographic hashes and timestamp. So since you have a more mixed thing, I don't want to get too technical because some of the crowd will be like, "Hey, this is too much." But generally speaking, this is how data structures and how blockchain works. And I won't explain this slide, but generally you have the data structure, you have the distributed system, and all of this is actually what is blockchain. So when you sit down and go back and see what is blockchain, you will notice actually there are a mix of few technologies. They are just not, like one thing. Like when you say AI, you can easily imagine, like a Terminator robots running in your brain, or they're smart, like computers are smart and stuff like that. You can associate that thing. But when you say blockchain, people will be seeing like coins moving in the database, or like they'll imagine coins moving over the internet. They can't really imagine what is blockchain. That's the reason I believe in explaining it, in dissecting this technology. I took a lot of time explaining this, but I think this is a kind of a ground to set up our discussion later. So I'll move on to the next question, and I'll end this slide here.
Okay, thank you so much for the explanation, visualization, and all that. So thank you so much for that. So, what is it about blockchain that fascinates you? Why do you specifically choose it as a solution for the society and making it a company?
Actually, to be honest, that I was in kind of a dilemma back in university. So I was doing my masters, and I really wanted to choose a technology that I want to master into. And then back then, blockchain wasn't really a thing yet. So Bitcoin was like what was famous. So I had this issue with AI and big data and all this stuff. I had, like, I'm a very nerdy person, so I like to sit down and ponder around about future and how like how things will look like in, like 10, 15, 20 years from now. So, like I like to watch a lot of these futuristic kind of movies and stuff like that. So I used to just sit down and imagine like how, like 20 years, 30 years from here going to look like, and how I want it, right? So I looked into the current systems of AI. I had one huge problems with it. I started to do AI, and I started to do a branch of AI called multi-agent systems, like where multiple AIs can talk to each other and make a decision. It's an advanced AI. It's not really famous yet. It's one of the part of AIs. I was doing my I was studying that for my masters, and I was really excited about it. But then I hit in one question, like, how can I trust it? How can I trust a computer system to do and work in my advantage or work in my interest, right? So this kind of hit me. I noticed that there's no way for me to verify or like digitize trust. So that's why it really hit me. I noticed that the trust factor was actually important for the next wave of innovation, because people would want a computer or like a system that like once you set the rule that like this is how I want things, it actually maintains those rules, it maintains those values. So to actually simplify this, you can look into Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin set those values that is going to be 21 million Bitcoins, and nobody can change it. It's only going to be 21. You lose it, whatever happens is 21. The only way you want to change it is more than 60% of everybody come and say, we want to change it. So it means majority wants to change. Then you can do a vote and you can actually change it. But if not, the majority is not agreeing to it, nobody can change it. The program is set. So it's set to code, and you work on the same values. So in that case, I noticed that, hey, actually trust factor is being solved by the Bitcoin protocol. Back then, blockchain wasn't really a famous term. So I noticed that this Bitcoin thing is interesting, like how they're doing it. I wasn't really bought into the idea of buying Bitcoin back then. But I was bought into the idea of learning about Bitcoin. So I just went up, started to look into what is Bitcoin, what is technology, and then later I started to look into the protocol. So even the term blockchain is not coined by the Satoshi Nakamoto. It's coined by somebody in the community we don't know. It just became famous someday. So blockchain, the technology, the word wasn't
Yeah.
coined by a guy. It was just famous in the community someday, and a lot of the new projects started to just use that term. So if you looked into Satoshi Nakamoto's paper, he actually says, like chains of blocks. Like a kind of chains of blocks. Like the technology, he referred it that way. So people take that words and just blockchain it and you
Blockchain.
use the term. Yes. So when I got into it, I noticed that we needed a technology that caters for, of course, automation. We would want computers to actually help our life. I would want to wake up someday. I would want to tell my AI, hey, please buy me a coffee, get my car ready, and prepare my food. And like I want that future. When I wake up, like these things have been done for me. I don't have to think about it. I just think about what I want to do or what passion I have on that day, right? And all of those thoughts have been sorted. But I don't want my AI to go up and say, "Hey, you have some emotional tantrum," and basically started to charge my card extra, or maybe go up and do things that I don't want it to do, and at the same time has its own emotional, like all that Terminator stuff that you've been thinking of. Blockchain is a
Yeah,
solution
yeah.
for it, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where I saw that there's a huge value in this space, and this is something we need. I think there is a lot of positive impacts, and there's going to be some negative impacts as well. There's never a one-sided impact on whenever a technology comes in. So, among the positive impacts that I see is that costs of doing business, costs of services, at the same time scaling those services. We have a huge problem today where we actually have quite huge population of the world that is still unbanked, right? Thinking in this future world where we're thinking about flying cars and like drones, but we still have a big population of the earth that doesn't have a banking service, can't take a loan, can't do business, don't have food, and there's so
Yeah.
many problems. The reason why, because the cost of actually providing that banking services, financial services, IDs, or like supply chains, it's huge mess for a lot of people in the world right now. So blockchain creates a very positive outcome out of it, because today like simply 10 to 15 guys can go up and like launch a banking service on their own and maintain it globally using blockchain technology, where you had to actually like hire thousands and thousands and thousands of people to run a banking service. If you compare a bank in Indonesia, how big towers they have and how many people they have to actually serve, like maybe 10 or 15% of the Indonesian population, which is like 15 million, I believe, 15, 20 million. To serve that population, you have huge banks which have to be distributed, who have to answer calls every day. But then you look into Bitcoin, how many people do they have, right? It's an open
Yeah.
global share system. They don't have a building, they don't have anything. Everybody just runs a bunch of computers. And today they are the largest, they're much larger than four of the biggest American banks. So you can see it actually can provide a financial service and can scale at a huge, like a huge ecosystem with a fraction of the cost. Bitcoin won't be that good example in terms of cost. A lot of people argue that, hey, it's expensive to mine. But what about all the other 2,000 cryptocurrencies? They're not, a lot of them has innovated even further, where they don't use electricity to verify, they do other things. So they actually are like much more scalable, like they're much cheaper to do this, and they actually at the same time they're growing, they're actually solving a lot of these problems. So this kind of brings a lot of these positive impacts. So we can bank the unbanked, we can provide them financial services, we can provide them fundings, we can provide them aids. So there's one area. But other than that, I also think, as we talked about trust earlier, a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
industries that are highly, like manual today, highly, like paper driven, can be digitized finally. So we couldn't digitize contracts for years because you couldn't trust them. If I put it on your server, what if you just go and change the contract, right? Like a lot of times
Yeah.
people have these issues, right? When you have this contract, if you put it digital and it's changeable, nobody wants a digital contract. It has been there since 1993, the idea of doing digital contracts, but it didn't work out until Ethereum did it. Reason why? Because if anybody can change the contract is untrustable, it's unworkable. So that's the area when they put it up onto a blockchain, and we can secure that the contract it's not going to change, and it's only can change if we consent to it, we agree to it. And in this case, you can actually look into digitizing contracts. And when you can digitize contract, imagine how many, like papers and like a lot, how many documents is going on for law firm. If you walk into a law firm today, there's papers everywhere, right? Like in basically a lot of these traditional houses, not the corporate law firms where it's like fancy offices and stuff like that. But I'm not more talking more about the traditional mom and pop kind of law firm. If you go there, paper everywhere, every time. And or how many of that paper can be removed? How much of paper-based, work that is required will be removed in just coming years, because contracts are being picked up. Certificates, we have a huge issue of fake certificates. A lot of our ministers have it in Malaysia, so you actually can look it up. A lot of our ministers are actually having fake certificates and fake education degrees, and it's a scandal here in Malaysia for years. But generally speaking, education and certificate management is a challenge, and many other things. We can talk about certificates of land, property, title, and many other things in certificates, many things in contracts, many things in financial services. And when you start looking into it, a lot of these areas was heavily manual, right? You had to print that degree and give it to you. You go back home and frame it, right? And then but still somebody can just come and give you for like maybe $200. Somebody can just print you the same copy and give it to you, the same degree, right? How do you verify? Are you a genuine talent or not? Right? We have so many of those issues today which can be solved by blockchain, and the negative impact from it is, as I told in the beginning, the scale of doing services. So you see, like today, for the banks are hiring thousands and thousands of employees. So governments are very happy because they're hiring a huge people and they're paying taxes. But if banks don't act today to innovate and to re-educate their staff, and suddenly, like some fintech companies come in and they start to provide services and they take the lunch of the banks, what bank will say? And a lot of the financial services is going to say that, hey, we do not have enough business. I'm going to basically let go of all this stuff, and thousands of people will go unemployed. And banks, a lot of times, banks don't really do retraining or like re-employment kind of trainings. That is something that I think is going to be hugely negative. Something that we can actually foresee today and we can prepare for today, but I don't see any initiatives being taken so far. So I'm worried about that kind of future where you basically have financial services being run by a very small population, where the current working population have to find a new, new area or a new areas to work. So that is in short term, that is it's a negative thing that will happen. But I think in long term, there might be other negative effects as well, because basically over time you will see that jobs will reduce. But it's not just blockchain though. AI is going to reduce your jobs. IoT is going to reduce your jobs. Blockchain is going to reduce your jobs. Cybersecurity is reducing your jobs. So a lot of people are finding jobs to do webinars and this kind of sessions now, right? To kind of move away from a lot of the traditional thinking and think of something new. This will happen, will have to happen, but certain population would not be able to move on. That'll be the issue. Yeah. So I'll move on to the next question. I think, yeah.
True, it's a lot. It's going to change a lot. And like I think with what you just explained to us, it will really change the fundamental of the society and how basically the society works. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And how far is the influence of blockchain technology right now in the society?
I think the influence is growing and growing even faster now, because today we have blockchain. We have something in blockchain we call dApps, decentralized applications. So we have dApps everywhere, from streaming games, social media, Facebook, decentralized YouTube, and like all of those kind of innovations that are just spawning out right now. And at the same time, you have many different investment platforms. So if you see like the market where the the sentiments was previously that crypto is scam and like Bitcoin is scam, suddenly like in the last 3 years, 4 years, suddenly everybody is pouring their money in. I have my uncles and aunties calling me and like, hey, how can I invest into Bitcoin? And I'm like, maybe you shouldn't if you don't understand it. So Yeah, so that's usually my answer. I'm usually go with the investment answer. I usually say the best investment that you can do is invest in yourself. Learn about it.
Invest in yourself.
Yeah, so
True.
so that's the best investment advice I will give to anybody. And in this case, it's like what I see is that in terms of perception, governments are picking it up. Indonesia is one of the countries that actually also looking into it. There's multiple plans that is actually happening in Indonesia. ASEAN is overall very optimistic. I think ASEAN countries, especially Indonesia, Singapore is all definitely ahead and lead. Malaysia is coming up, not far behind. Philippines, all of them are actually picked up a really strong game in blockchain, and they would want to be innovators. I think this is the wave where we can see a wave of innovation that is going to go up, because we missed the round on AI. We missed on cloud. AWS owned the whole world right now in terms of cloud. We can't really fight that game, but we can fight the game on blockchain because we are among the early participants. We can be among the early guys to adopt it. We can fight the fight on AI. So that's the reason a lot of entrepreneurs would want to be in.
Okay,
Okay.
come on, ASEAN, we can do it.
Yeah.
All right, talking about investment before, there is a question from Nuriska here. So, is it effective if we are invest on digital currency?
Effective, you mean?
Effective, yes. Is it effective if we invest on digital currency?
So you have to see, if you make money, of course, it's effective, right? If you don't make money, then it's not effective strategy for you. So in this case, that's why I said the best investment advice is invest in yourself, understand what are the strategies, like in this market, and like in this case, you have to understand that, okay, like how much percentage I want to actually put up into crypto. How much is it in stocks? How much is it in bonds? How much is it into other investment, like categories? You might want to put some allocation in cryptocurrencies, test out, learn, start small, and then you see if you're getting any gains, you're getting any, like a profits out of it, and is it effective enough for you to actually put in that money and get those gains? Then you can look into investing more. If you don't feel that comfort, you don't have that comfort level with cryptocurrency, I'll suggest skip it, and like basically you forget about it. Then like that is a decision you made in your life. A lot of people will skip it, but then later they will still cry about it, right? Like, just make a firm decision: no crypto for me, I'm going to move on. Right?
It's okay. If it's not for you, it's not for you, yeah?
Yeah, it's not for you, it's not for you. So it's crypto is not going to be for everybody. It's a very volatile asset. It's a like it's quite risky. You do not know what will happen tomorrow. Even I can't predict the prices. Is it going to go 100,000 or is it going to go 50,000 tomorrow? I have no clue. Or like in this case, what we can do is just take calculated decisions, take the risk step by step, and grow into it. But what I usually a good investor will do is diversify the investments. You don't put all like all your eggs in one basket. You put it some into stocks. At the moment, the reason why crypto is doing really good is because you can't diversify and make any gains, because stocks are doing bad because countries are under pandemic, right? Forex are not really doing that good in terms of we're going to face some inflation because of a lot of currencies is being printed out for stimulus checks and everything, right? So a lot of the areas are quite risky at the moment. So crypto doesn't feel very risky anymore to a lot of people, because stocks are in risk, bonds are in risk, forex are in risk. So in this case, when they look into crypto, it doesn't feel so risky that much, and crypto is growing faster and they're giving good profit margins. That's the reason people are putting money in there. But doesn't mean throw all your saving there and basically and you're gonna lose your money. I'm not advising anybody to do anything like that, but I'm telling, take a calculated guess, look into all of these areas, and then make a decision. Okay.
Right. Thank you. And how's the accessibility of this technology right now? How do we access it, and how do we make it more accessible for more people?
So for me, I will say that I believe in training more developers and more technologies in this space. That's how I'm actually spreading the word. So here's few areas, right? Before I get into the technical bit, I think you have to understand where you stand. Do you want to be a person who understand the crypto side, or do you want to be a person who want to understand the technology side, or do you want to be a person who just want to like do business in that area, or you want to be an entrepreneur, right? So you have to stand and you like take a decision first, where what is for you. So for me, I noticed that I'm actually in a bit of all of them. I have a company, so I'm an entrepreneur. I used to be a blockchain developer and a trainer, so I do that. I also invest into cryptocurrency, so I also know about that. So I'm a bit, my leg is in all places in a way. So basically, when it comes towards here, you have to decide to simplify your life, not to be a nerd like me. Decide where you want to be. So if you're a programmer and you
Okay.
feel that blockchain has a huge scope, at the moment they have premium in salaries. A lot of people are getting heavily paid. So if you feel that, okay, I want to be a blockchain developer. So to start that, you need to one, join in, like try to join the blockchain developer groups, try to go up and search for courses. There are courses on Udemy, there are courses on online, there are courses on YouTube. There are many other areas you can find. Every single project has their own documentation on how developers can get on board. You can go and read them. And basically start to join hackathons and events where blockchain is being taught and blockchain is being tested, right? And when you join in that circles, you will join the technical developer groups and the technical discussions. So if you want to be part of the crypto groups, I think or like you want to be part into the crypto discussion, it's good to join all these crypto associations, crypto groups. I think Indonesia, we have Asosiasi Blockchain Indonesia. Pandu, I believe she was on the session as well. Heads up to her and her groups. They're actually having some. They are doing some good work in Indonesia as well. So you can join her, follow her, and hear some discussion. Other than that, there are also a few more crypto communities that are very active. They do constantly talk about what is blockchain, what are cryptocurrencies, what are those new projects, how the new innovations are coming out. Join in those circles if you are looking more towards investments and ideas. If you're looking into starting an entrepreneur, then join in the entrepreneur group, right? Associasi is a good place to start, but you need to start talking and networking with a lot of the entrepreneurs on LinkedIn, where I go and join a lot of these meetup sessions that I had, and then you can know more about the technology, be involved. So the first step is to get involved, to decide where you want to be and be involved, and slowly you will get those skills, the knowledge. And one of the things I have to highlight, you'll be one among the earliest, because if you looked into the whole scape, and how many people are actually in crypto and how many people are investing in crypto and how many people actually know the technology, the scope is still huge. You still have a lot of potential. At the moment, we're just scratching the surface of blockchain. If my if my vision is true or my prediction is true, blockchain is still going to go very far from here. Okay.
All right. All right. That's a really, really good insight and pointers that we all can take notes from you.
Sure.
And who are actually the stakeholders who push all these developments, or what sector is having most of the trial and error of using this technology right now?
Okay, so in terms of stakeholders, we definitely have the general ones. You will have the government, the enterprise, and then you have the startups. It's just to simplify it into the three places. At the moment, governments are a bit slow in terms of embracing any technology. This is the whole case, actually, in a way, the whole world. We can't just say ASEAN. The whole world government are usually among the slowest to adopt. Very, very rarely governments are the very active one. Exception, I think, a bit of Indonesia. Singapore. An exception. They might actually have a bit more proactive government that look into doing some experimenting and R&D early on into technology. Okay, so they are one exception, but generally everybody is usually slow in adoption. But at this particular time, all the governments are basically on their toes right now because of the pandemic, and supply chains are being disrupted. Businesses are not working. Everybody have to go digital. So a lot of these governments who were previously pessimistic or were not really looking into blockchain technology has suddenly decided that, hey, we would want to find out more about this. We want to learn more about this. That's the reason a lot of blockchain guys are very busy around, because everybody is getting called to go and find out, what is this and what they can do with, or what kind of collaboration they can do. So I believe that the government is going to be one of the next players who's going to get on board. Enterprises, if you talk about enterprises, there are usually few scales. You have the micro entrepreneurs, you have the SMEs, and then you have the large enterprises, right? So large enterprises, a lot of them are already looking into blockchain, especially the technology startups. If you look into the big ones, you look into VMware, you look into Microsoft, you look into Google, you look into all of them already have some sort of blockchain strategy, or some of them will even have products. AWS has a product, IBM has a product, like a Microsoft has a blockchain product. So all of them are already building something around that area, and they want to provide it as a service, right? So they have decided where they want to be. When you looked into other large enterprises, they're also like big rubber companies, big commodity companies. They're also looking into how can they embrace blockchains and reduce their costs. At the moment, their petroleum companies are looking into it. There's rubber companies that are looking into it. There are timber companies that are looking into it. So these large enterprises, they know where they want to put their R&D money right now. SMEs, it's a bit, a bit difficult. SMEs usually do not invest a lot of money into R&D or technology. They're usually consumers, right? Usually the large enterprises are the one who build it, or the startups are the one who will build it, and SMEs are usually consumer face. So they won't be doing a lot of innovation now, but they are encouraged to do, because if they do it, they will be one of the early ones to go up and pick up and build solutions out there, because there are not many competition available in the space right now. Micro entrepreneurs is not going to do innovation. They're going to embrace innovation. So in this case, I think this is has been quite noticed quite early on in Indonesia. If you notice that a lot of your startups are actually the one who connected, like Bukalapak and everything. They actually connected a lot of the small businesses to technology, and they're one of the successful ones. In Indonesia, you have a lot of small micro businesses. I think there's a lot of unorganized businesses as well. So in this case, a lot of these businesses is going to consume and absorb technology as moving forward, and they will be more of a consumer. Startups is what I will focus on if I'm somebody from the government. I'll take funding, I'll give them R&D grants, I'll let them innovate. I think these are the guys who most probably will be building a lot of blockchain ideas, and it's already happening in Indonesia. I think there are some good startups that are going to come out of Indonesia, and I hope there's few blockchain unicorns as well out of Indonesia soon. Okay.
All right. And so, as for example, we know that not many people understands how blockchain works, neither the technical side of it. What can we do to get the point of making the most out of blockchain technology?
Yeah, I think what it's needed here right now is like if you want to expedite knowledge growth in the space, right? Not a lot of people understand. So what you need to do is you need to train a batch of people. If let's say if I'm from Indonesian government right now and I'm from the Ministry of Education, what I will do, I'll get a bunch of like good technology trainers from all the universities, put them into like hardcore blockchain bootcamp, get them trained, right? Understand like from like zero to maximum, go back to universities, start blockchain courses, right? Do research, do education, train more developers, prepare more talent. So this is something that if let's say any country want to do, is doable. It's one training, right? One training, government. Yeah, one hardcore training with hardcore lecturers. You cannot have like middle layer. You need to have some good lecturers who understand a lot of it. So they can go back, they can do research, they can do education, they can do trainings. And once you did that, you actually will have trainers who can train the next generation of developers, who understands, who will research more, who will understand further, and they will build that Indonesian blockchain ecosystem. But today the issue is like there is still blockchain is not really given the priority in terms of like education. So there's not much grants. There's not much, because there's always a chicken and egg problem. When governments think that we need job applications first, and then we will build the supply. But they don't know that actually a lot of people are already looking for blockchain developers. I'm looking for them. I'm willing to hire blockchain developers right now. I just need some good guys who can come up, right? If anybody is hearing out there, want to be a blockchain developer, you can look at blockclimb.com and you can come in and apply. I'll be very happy to come and hire a few developers from Indonesia. I'm even open to coming up and setting up an office there. I have no problem. So if I can get some good guys who actually can code good blockchain, like blockchain codes. But the issue is that because we do not have the talent here, we don't look into it. We don't go to the country because we can't access those talent. We can't find those talent. We can't identify those talent. So in this case, it will be a good move to get those trainers, the lecturers, the top, technology educators in your country, get them educated into blockchain, and and basically bring back and do knowledge transfer. You need to do knowledge transfer, and after knowledge transfer, you have to do your own research. Best focus on a lot of research projects, and doing talent development. For me, I think if let's say like if I have to waste money of just training those guys for free, all these students, I will do it. Reason why? Because you're building a supply in your country. Imagine today if I say that, hey, I have 10,000 blockchain developers available in Jakarta. Which blockchain company don't want to set it up there because they know they have abundance of talent to hire?
True.
Most blockchain companies will flock there because they have talent, right? But Indonesia is not doing it. Even Malaysia is not doing it. Singapore has done it to a certain extent, but not very well. So that's the reason this is an opportunity for ASEAN. Whichever country does it will be the blockchain hub.
Okay. I don't know if it's gonna be last question because it will depend on your answer later.
Yeah.
Now that we have the general picture of the current situation of how blockchain is benefiting the society, if we want to implement the system to our business or projects, etc., where do we start?
Okay, so in this case, if you want to set up, like you want to use the use case, because let's say you have to identify first where are you? Are you a blockchain, or like are you an innovation company? Are you a technology company? Do you have the capabilities to actually go up and build custom solution, right? So if you have those, then you actually can go up and build something. You can look into one, your use case. What is it? What technology that will be suitable for it? Is it going to be Ethereum? Is it going to be a public blockchain, a private blockchain, or a consortium? How will the business cases and business logic work? And what kind of controls you need? You answer those questions, you will kind of get into. You will start the journey towards innovating your own blockchain technology. Or the second option is wait for somebody or look for somebody who already have a solution and adopt it. Right? For me, I feel be the early. If you can't be the innovator, be the early adopter. So this is usually a lot of SME things that they must be the innovator. Innovating is hard. A lot of people don't get it. They think that we're gonna be the next, like Mark Zuckerberg, or we're gonna be the next Elon Musk of innovating over here. But the problem is, if you already have a business that is sustaining and it's making money, you want to at the same time you want to go up and build another innovation layer or a software business that you have no clue of, you have no idea of. It's very difficult. So in this case, it's best if you are not an innovator, be an early adopter. Pick up whatever solutions that are already out there, which you can fit it into your business, and does that give benefit to your business first of all, right? A lot of times people say they want blockchain, but why they want it, they have no clue, right?
Yeah.
They just hear blockchain. I want blockchain, but what is blockchain? I don't know. Why you want blockchain? I don't know. What blockchain benefits will blockchain give your business? I don't know, right? So in this case, go and understand that first and understand what benefit you're gonna get, then do something. If not, just slip on it. Looked into the prices every day, it's going up, and just just let it mature a bit and then just use it in the future when you have a service that you like. Okay.
So you were mentioning several types of blockchain, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Like Ethereum, for example. And so are there actually like types of blockchains, and what are each types are best suited for? Like what is it compatible for certain types of businesses?
Yeah, so generally there are actually three types of blockchain. So you have the public blockchain. So in a public blockchain, all the data is visible to everyone. So if you go on Bitcoin, everybody has a database, everybody can see the data on it, but usually the accounts are anonymous. So it's usually just a bit number. So it is not like Harpreet transfer this much Bitcoin. It's like XYZ blah 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 has transferred this many Bitcoin to XYZ blah 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 something, right? So it's anonymized with that address. So but the data is public. Everybody can go up and see all the transactions. Your bank, for example, you can only see what you did and how much balance you have and what transactions you did. You cannot see mine. You cannot see anybody else. You only see yours. So everybody has an individual view, but the bank can see everything. Okay. So in this case, a public blockchain is where everybody has access to data. Everybody can use the data. And at the same time, a public blockchain is usually also open. open sourced. So a lot of people can just take those code, they can modify, they can edit it, and basically fork out their own chains. Today, if you see Bitcoin, everybody just know one Bitcoin. But actually, if you go up and start searching, there's Bitcoin Gold, there's Bitcoin Cash, there's Bitcoin SV, there's Bitcoin Black, there's Bitcoin Dark. There's so many Bitcoins out there actually, but
Yeah.
everybody only knows about the one Bitcoin, which is currently trading for 60 something thousand. So that's how public works. But if you're running a business, here's where you need to make a decision. Public, you need to share everything. Everything is open. Your competitors can come and see whatever transaction you do. Once they know your address, they can come and view your whatever transactions that you have been doing and who you're doing it with. If they know all those, if they, let's say there's a leak and everybody knows the addresses of your competitor, they can view all transactions. So a lot of businesses find that scary. They're like, no, I don't want my competitors to know my information. So they would go for something more private, which is a private blockchain, or they will go for a consortium blockchain. So there's difference over there. A private blockchain is more like a major company. Let's say I'm the major oil trader, and I want all my partners and subsidiaries and like maybe all the guys who are trading with me to use one blockchain, right? So I set up a private blockchain. So this is, let's say this from Malaysia. This is Petronas blockchain, and they basically do everybody, every time people buy oil from me, I'm going to record on this. So every time I sell the oil, I'm going to record on this. So all my buyers and sellers are on this Petronas blockchain, and we can actually monitor that, and we actually can even do contracts on that. For example, I can do a contract that I'm going to buy 2 million barrels of oil from Shell, and we can write a contract, sign it digitally, no paper, no faxing, no emailing, everything done on one platform, simplified, and you can track it. And at the same time, you can even do automated payment. Once you say that I've received it, it will automatically release that payments as well. All of that can be automated. So you can see how many staff has been cut down there already. You're talking about
Yeah.
easily about 30 people gone already, work, no more work already, because computer is
No,
doing it, right? So
true.
that's, yeah. So that's how a private works. When you have like one entity, they want to do it in a closed loop between the people. A consortium is when multiple banks or multiple, like multiple companies actually. Sorry, when you're trying to actually solve a problem. Let's say if it's a financial use cases, banks want to do remittance between each other, and all of them will say, okay, we're going to build a consortium. All of us going to come up onto this one blockchain, and we will set the rules. Okay, who everybody, let's say if it's a rule that everybody get the same share, okay, everybody can do the same thing. So nobody is like a boss in that. Everybody can vote, everybody can decide. Let's say a new member want to join, everybody vote yes, I approve. If majority say cannot approve, then they won't add in a new member. And they can do transactions like doing interbank payments, interbank transactions, and they can do that, like for a very low transactions, and they don't have to do re-verification. They can even do their loan contracts up there. They can do dark pools, tradings, and all those stuff. There's a lot of things that you can do in a banking consortium. You can take that same model, you can do it for insurance, you can do it for rubber, you can do it for like timber, you can do it for gold, you can do it for so many things. A consortium, because a lot of companies kind of work with each other. In technology as well, we work with other technology companies to trade information, trade data, trade resources. Same goes over there in traditional commodities companies as well. They do that as well. Financial as well, they do the same things. So consortiums will be more catered towards that kind of category. So if you're looking towards a business, where you're looking into building a business use case, private and consortiums are better options for you to explore. Technologies that are available like Hyperledger, R3 Coda, you can look into even Hedera Hashgraph to a certain extent. They can do a lot of private technologies. Then you can also look into Quorum, Consensus. If you notice my LinkedIn, I have a lot of this ambassadorships for this because I do a lot of advocacy for private and enterprise technology. And if you're going towards public, if you, let's say you have something, let's say you just want to make a social media, or you want to make a TikTok, for example, Indonesian TikTok, you're like a ID talk or something. You want to build something for Indonesia, and you want to just like have a token, then you can just go on Ethereum, Polkadot, you can go on Ada, Cardano, right? So in this case, you have already public options. Once you go there, you already have users, you already have adoption, you have wallets, you can just get started. So you have to choose where your business sits and where it resides. These are the three different types of blockchains. Okay.
That is amazing, Mr. Harpreet. So, um, may I know? Would you please explain to us where we can actually reach you? Because, as you said, and as we know too, if we look into your LinkedIn, you are teaching a lot of people, you are coaching them, right? So, if we want to reach you, do you have like any platforms where we can reach you? Would you please explain to us?
Yeah, so at the moment, actually, the best platform is definitely LinkedIn. If let's say you have a LinkedIn account, or you actually can follow my Facebook page. We do a lot of our classes, training sessions, discussion sessions. We actually put it up on our Facebook. So you can search at Blockline for my Facebook. If you even search it on LinkedIn, we have a page there, but sadly, LinkedIn page we're not maintaining that much. But for my personal one, you can search me Harpreet Maan. You just put Harpreet Maan with Blockline, this guy will be up there. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Oh, before that, is there any final comments or something that you want to express about blockchain?
I can go on and on about blockchain, of course, but in terms of final thoughts, the only ideas that are coming in, I think that as we discussed earlier about trust, I think if you really look into it, a digital trust technology was needed, and basically blockchain is kind of here to solve those issues. So today it is something that looks like novel, something new, something exciting, but there will be a time where it's part of our life and it's something that will, like it'll just be something common in it. So I'm hoping for that future, and I hope like Intan, like people from like Tech for Indonesia, and also the people who actually viewers who is watching today might be part of that journey to make that future happen, where we actually can go up and build this like a wonderful future where you have technology that you can trust and technologies that are good and working for you, and at the same time we hope we can build this together. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Harpratman. It is a very pleasant interview that we have today. Thank you so much. You guys that are already here, thank you so much. We are very happy and glad to have you guys here. And if you guys want to hear more, or like if you guys miss out some things in the talk today, don't forget to just go into Tech for ID's YouTube channel because they are going to upload this live session today. And so, yeah, you guys can absolutely check it out later. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to Tech for ID's YouTube channel and stay tuned with us later. All right, Mr. Harpreet, thank you so much.
Yeah, I just would
And
like to say
yeah,
one thing in
yeah,
the end, but I'm
sure.
not so sure how do I say this in Indonesia. How do I say selamat berpuasa?
Oh, that is so sweet. That is actually right.
That's actually right.
Yeah,
Okay, it's the same way. So selamat
yeah.
berpuasa, everybody. Yeah, and
Thank
then
you so
Ramadan
much,
Kareem.
Mr. Ramadan Karim. Thank
Ramadan.
you so much. So, okay, everyone, thank you so much for being here today with us. See you guys later in another Tech Talk with Tech for ID. And good night. Bye.
Good night. Bye bye, guys.